Tim Pawlenty is our in-studio guest. We've had a number of people email me this question. You mentioned clean coal. What the heck is that?
Well, in South Dakota, they wanted to put up a coal plant that had the best technology of today. We approved it because they needed to run the lines through Minnesota. And it was the best of coal technology as it exists today, or back then 2010. And within 30 days or so of us approving that project, the Obama administration put a hold on it. And the investors said, well, we're not going to have this much delay and this much problem, and they fled, and the project got killed. So clean coal, I think, can be defined as we need to use coal, but if somebody wants to come forward and invest in the best-of-class technology as it exists today and build a coal plant, I think that's something we should be inclined to do.
Here in Iowa, we pulled the plug on one just a few months ago.
Well, they've been pulled the plug all over, Jim. But there is
same way with nukes.
Yeah.
You can't get a nuclear power facility started. We trying to get. Well, some people are thinking about it and pre-collecting some of the funds to build a modular nuclear power facility. Would you encourage that if you had that opportunity to at least to ponder it?
Well, other countries do this, and by modular, what I take you to mean is this: there are certain packages or pre-existing technologies that have already been approved in other places, and they don't have to be approved from scratch every time they come through the system.
And they're smaller scale.
And they're smaller scale, and so they're repeatable, scalable, and you can bring them through the process without having to reinvent the wheel every time. I think it's a good idea.
But as you said earlier, we should let the market decide. If the market only were involved in energy choices, would nuclear power be on the scale? Which do you think would be the most economic, top to bottom? If the marketplace only.
I think the answer to that going forward in the near and intermediate term is probably going to be natural gas. And it's here. We can Americanize it. It burns cleaner than coal, obviously. It's less controversial than nuclear. And we got a boatload of it.
We already have something of a delivery system.
We already do. And by the way, some of these older coal plants, if people choose and think it's economically viable, can be converted to natural gas. We did that in Minnesota to some of our old coal plants. It reduced mercury emissions, SOx, NOx emissions, and it was a successful conversion from what I'd call old coal to a cleaner, better, more available, and more, frankly, affordable energy source.
This is Vicki. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning, Jen.
Hi.
Good morning, Governor.
Good morning.
Hi, I have a question for you. What is your position and opinion of current TSA security practices?
Current TSA security practices are annoying, but somebody's got to come up with not just the complaint, but what are we going to do? Because you got to have the kind of scrutiny where you can detect whether people are going to bring stuff on and blow up planes and kill our fellow citizens. And do I like, hold my hands above my head and having pictures of my body taken? No. Do I like being patted down? No. But if we're not going to do that, then what's the answer? And the answer can't be anybody can get on a plane without some reasonable screening.
How about profiling?
Yeah,
you don't look like a terrorist to me.
Yeah, well,
and the little old lady in the wheelchair doesn't look like a terrorist to me. And it seems like we're subjecting everybody to the exact treatment. Radical egalitarian approach to this is that's.
Yeah, and I've spoken publicly about that, John. I think it's okay to have public safety and law enforcement responses in proportion to the threat. And so when you have, for example, the success we've had in fighting crime, and you focus on the people who do the most crime, guess what? These crime statistics go down. Mm-hmm. Similarly, if we know for a fact that there is a disproportionate threat coming from places like Iran or like Yemen, and we've got travel coming from those countries, then it's okay to put disproportionate attention on those planes, those people, and where they originate from. And so I've been in favor of making our response in terms of security and safety proportionate to what we know about the threat. Now, one thing you should keep in mind is this thing's changing. And not everybody's going to fly here from Yemen, and not everybody's going to look like that type of terrorist, potential terrorist. We have homegrown and domesticated terrorists now, and increasingly they may not look like what you think they look like. They're probably not going to be grandma, but we need to be mindful of that as well.
We're just about out of time here. A number of people have asked me to ask the question: is the way the Obama has taken us to Libya, is that constitutional?
Well, there's the War Powers Act that every president, every Congress has debated since 1973. And there's a great debate about when and how the Congress has to be consulted and whether they have to grant approval. I would say this. I think it's pretty clear that they have to be consulted and notified, but it's also a question of when, within which time period. So this is
Did
much.
Libya present an immediate threat to the United States to justify that intervention without consulting Congress?
Well, I think you got to be careful about tying the commander-in-chief's hands, because if the new rule is we're going to have a congressional debate for weeks or months, when in a push of a button, a whole city or a whole country could be wiped out, we got to be careful about saying, Congress, we're going to outsource a big chunk of this to Congress.
Tim Pawlenty, thank you for your time this morning, sir.
Thank you, Jim.